You're live. There we go. Hey, welcome. Is it working?
You're on.
All right, good. And they can see this one. And this one's rolling.
That one's rolling. You got them
Okay, I'm
both.
gonna double check this.
Get on YouTube just to...
Yeah. We got 3 people. Hi, 3 people. That looks good. All right.
You're on.
Thank you, Kamala. Say hi to everybody real quick.
Hey guys, have fun at the Q&A.
This is Kamala. She's our head of marketing at Run Gum, and she is awesome. I'm very, very bad with technology. So Cam and Adrian, Lexi, Nathan, they have to help me out. But I think we've got this all set up.
We're on.
Yeah?
Yeah.
We're going? I actually have 2 different cameras. I've got my webcam here, and I've got my iPhone here. You all set? Careful. Thanks, Cam.
Yeah.
And I'm actually recording this with my iPhone, and I will put these questions up individually every Monday because not everyone could be here for the live webcast. And I want to make sure that all of these questions get answered and that everyone gets a chance to hear them. So you guys sent me your questions on Instagram. Thank you guys so much for doing that. And there were a lot of questions. I've got 3 full sheets worth of questions about running and business and climbing. Literally over 100 questions came in, and it's going to be tough to get to them all. What I did was I highlighted about 15 of the ones that seem to be asked multiple times. And I'm going to address those ones because I think that obviously those are topics that people really want to hear about. Very diverse, and maybe at the end, if there's time, you guys can ask me some more questions live for the people that are joining me on the webinar. I'm going to talk to this camera here just because that's the one that's going to go up on YouTube as individual questions. But of course, I see you guys out there, and we've got lots of people joining us for the live webinar. So thank you guys. Let's dig right in. All right. Today's question: how do you deal with pre-race nerves / anxiety that will negatively impact your race? What a fantastic question. I'm glad that this is the one we're starting with because every time I go on camera live, I do get a little bit nervous. I get a little bit excited, the same kind of excitement and nerves that I used to feel when I would stand on the line of a big race. And nerves and anxiety, I think all the time we think about them as a negative thing, but we don't have to think about them in a negative way. If you reframe them in your mind to think of them as a positive thing, as something that can help you, you start to get excited about them. And let me tell you what I mean by that. I remember when I was in high school and I knew I had a race that afternoon, I get so nervous. You guys know what I'm talking about. And I would think, how can I get out of this race? I bet you if I go to the nurse and I throw up, she won't make me race. Or if I twist my ankle in the warm-up, I won't have to run this race. And instead of looking at the race as an opportunity, I was looking at ways to get out of it. And of course, as I got farther along in my career, I started to begin to think of them as opportunities. So first, start to think of each race as an opportunity rather than something that you almost dread because of the nerves and anxiety. And 2, when those nerves come, no matter how excited you are for a race, you're going to feel nervous, you're going to feel a little bit anxious. Learn to embrace those. Those feelings are adrenaline. And as we know from science class, adrenaline is a very, very powerful drug that our body produces, that fight or flight drug. And if you harness that for good, it will help you do superhuman things. As I got later on in my career, I remember that sometimes I would run a race that maybe wasn't super important to me, and I couldn't get nervous for it. And I missed it. I missed feeling nervous because I knew that I wasn't getting the adrenaline coursing through my veins that I needed. When I stood on the starting line of the 2012 Olympic final in London, I had so much nerve, so much adrenaline, and I just thought this is going to be a special race because I'm going to harness this energy and I'm going to put it to use. And I ran a full second personal best in that final to finish 5th in the world in that Olympic final. So if you can look, you're not going to get rid of them, but you have to learn to embrace them a little bit. You have to get excited about that nervous energy and use it for good. The best thing I can say, though, is try to take your mind off of it. Don't allow yourself to think about a race 2 weeks leading into it because that energy is just going to wear you down. Teach yourself how to channel your mind to think about other things. Watch crappy TV, read a magazine, read a book, talk to your friends, but try not to think about the race until you're about a couple hours out. Otherwise, you're going to waste that energy. Great question. Next question is, what events did you win state champs in when you were running track and field in high school? That is such a great question because I was a 9-time state champion in Idaho, but I didn't start out that way. I actually didn't start running track in high school until my sophomore year. I did run cross country my freshman year, but I kind of said, I'm a 5K runner, I'm a distance runner. I'm never going to go to the track because there's no event long enough for me. The 2-mile was the longest event contested at the Idaho State meet, actually the 3,200 meters, which is so funny because I ended up being a true middle distance runner, but that's how I felt at the age of 14. However, my sophomore year of high school, my coach, Tom Shanahan, said, you have to come out for track. I just know you're going to be great at middle distance. And he was right. I didn't win any state titles my sophomore year, but let me think if I can remember that far back. It's nearly 2 decades. I ran 1:57 for 800 meters, 4:35 in the mile, and I think I ran 10:22 for 2 miles. My junior year, I had a huge jump from my sophomore to junior year, and I actually won state titles my junior year in the 4x4, the 800, the 16, and the 3,200. My PRs junior year were 1:57 in the 800, I want to say 4:25 in the 1600, and I think I was right around 9:52 for the 2 mile. And then my senior year, I replicated that. I won the cross country title in the fall, and then in the track season, I came back and won all 4 titles again, lowering my PRs in each event to 1:55, 4:20, and 9:35. So if you're a statistician and you're going back and looking at my times, I think I'm pretty darn accurate on those. But those were my PRs each year. Every single day I get high school kids asking me, Nick, what was your PR for this event this year? Well, now you have them, so I don't want to hear those questions anymore. And they're also totally irrelevant. What my personal best was or the track that I was on is going to be totally different than the track you're on. Follow your own track. A lot of people are late bloomers. 1:57 as a sophomore, most people would say this kid has no chance to ever make it as an 800-meter runner. Well, I went on to run in 2 Olympic Games in the 800. So some people are late bloomers. Some people peak earlier. Everyone's on a different path. Run your own race. Next question. In your opinion, what is a common mistake of elite runners? This is a good one. And I'm really kind to elite runners because it's a really hard job. Yes, it's a lot of people's dream job, but no one has made the sacrifices. No one has been through the trenches like an elite runner has, and only elite runners know what I'm talking about. But they make mistakes, and I think the biggest mistake that elite runners make is they're boring. I'm sorry, elite runners, you are. You go to your cabin in the woods and you train your butt off for 50 weeks out of the year, and you poke your head out for a race or two, and then you go back and no one ever hears from you. Now, not everybody. And in this age of social media, people are getting so much better. There's so many great professional runners out there that are sharing a lot of their life. I could go down the list, but Mo Farah, Little Centro, Emma Coburn, Colleen Quigley, these people are great on social. You should go follow them. But I remember before social media, there were a lot of really great pros that just wouldn't put themselves out there. They were shy and they found it a chore. And a lot of runners say, I'm a pro runner and I make my money running, but that's just not true. I never, ever got paid to run. Now let that sink in for a second. I ran professionally for 12 years, but I never once got paid to run. I got paid to sell Nike shoes. I got paid to sell Brooks shoes. If a meet director gave me an appearance fee, I got paid to sell whatever they were selling. I got paid to put people's butts in seats. I got paid to market things. Running was what allowed me to do that, but I never really got paid to run. I got paid to market things. Just like there's a lot of runners that maybe don't have a great resume, but they're really, really good at putting butts in seats because they're fantastic on social media and they have a huge following. I read this stat earlier today that the highest paid pro runners aren't professional runners at all. They're Instagram influencers, but they get paid to run. They just get paid to run on Instagram rather than run on a track. There's something to be said for that. At the end of the day, it's about selling products. And I hate to say that because it kind of lessens the purity of the sport, but that's the world we live in. And if you want to get paid, You need to make sure that you're connecting with your audience, that you're being authentic, and that you're ultimately selling products to that audience. So that's the biggest critique that I have with most elite runners, is that they're too concerned with their performance and not concerned enough with the business side of it. It's hard to manage both, absolutely. When you were running pro, what was the pace of most of your recovery runs? This is such a great question, and it's applicable to amateurs, to professionals, to anyone at any age. You can't train at 100% every single day. It is not possible. You will wear yourself out. And for that reason, we had something called easy days. Surprise, you have easy days. You have hard days when you're running your sessions. You have easy days when you're recovering. And a recovery run needs to be conversational. And so many pros mess this up, and a ton of amateurs mess this up. On my easy days, I ran whatever pace I wanted to run that felt conversational. And by conversational, I mean if I had a running buddy with me, I could talk to them. I could carry on a conversation while we ran. Some days I was exhausted, and that pace might have been 9-minute miles. And I'm not joking. As a pro runner, on my easy days, I would occasionally run 9-minute miles. Some days I was clipping along and I was feeling great, and I could run conversationally at 6-minute miles. But I listened to my body. I didn't have a pace that I said, I have to make sure I'm hitting this pace on my easy day, or I'm not really training. It's an easy day. It doesn't matter. You're literally just getting the time on your feet. You're logging your miles. You're recovering for the session, which is what's really going to make you a great runner. No one ever got great running easy miles. You get great using the easy miles to build your base, to build your volume, and to recover so that you can ultimately crush your workouts. That's how I really feel about the easy run. And I'm sick and tired of seeing people say, what should be my easy pace? There is no pace. It's whatever you feel that day that allows you to carry on a conversation. Keep it conversational pace. Next question is, how were you able to go from Division III school to an Olympian? What a great question. And you know, the people that have followed me for the last 20 years, they know that I started out at a little tiny Catholic high school in Boise, Idaho called Bishop Kelly. And I wasn't recruited by a single school. Well, that's not exactly true. I was recruited by some schools. They just didn't give me any scholarship offers. So I looked at the Division I schools. I looked at Division II schools, Division III, NAIA. There are so many programs out there. And ultimately, I chose to go with a Division III school called Willamette University. And the reason I did that is that, one, my mom and dad were paying the bills. So for me, like, the scholarship thing wasn't quite as big of an issue. I probably could have gone to some smaller schools and begged for an athletic scholarship. But I chose to go to Willamette because there the coach said, Nick, at Willamette, you'll be a student athlete and not the other way around. And that was really important to me because I wanted to study pre-medicine. I ended up getting a degree in biochemistry. And I knew I was going to be in labs every single afternoon. And all of the Division I programs I looked at, a lot of the Division II and NAIA programs, they had their practices at 3 in the afternoon, which is exactly when I would have been in lab. So at Willamette, they worked around my schedule. I was able to go to my classes. I was able to go to my labs. And the coach would meet me. Sometimes he'd meet me at 7 in the morning. Sometimes he'd meet me at 8 p.m. They made sure to always have a training partner and a coach there when I needed it. And that's just kind of a symptom or not a symptom, but a benefit of going to a smaller school where I was the guy. I'd already won 2 national titles my freshman year. They really catered the program to me, gave me training partners, gave me, PT time, gave me the resources I needed to be successful. And I always tell this to young runners. I say, find the program that wants to invest in you, that's not going to just view you as another number, that's not just going to treat you as cannon fodder and beat you up and put 20 guys through the meat grinder and see what comes out. Literally, find the coach and the program that's right for you. It might not be a D1 program. It might be a D2 program or even a D3 program or an NAIA program. Focus on the program that's going to give you what you want and focus on helping you achieve your goals, both on and off the track. That's the recipe for success, not going to some fancy D1 school because you think it's going to impress your friends. What's going to impress everybody is you living your most authentic life. So I got lots of time to talk to kids that tell me the only way to get to the Olympics or get to the top level is by going to a D1 program. Case in point, D3 kid made 2 Olympic teams. There's lots of ways to get there. Next question, any advice for a 14-year-old distance runner? Oh my gosh, this one is amazing because I was this kid and I wish I had this opportunity. when I was 14 to ask, a 2-time Olympian what advice he would have given to me. But we didn't have social media back then. I actually, let me think about that. I think MySpace existed, but Facebook certainly didn't. And I didn't even have a cell phone back then. I got my first cell phone when I was 16. True story. Big brick Nokia opened up. I'm dating myself. But at 14, what would I tell any 14-year-old? I'd tell them just to go have fun. It's that unique age where you can get burned out so quickly. And you see your friends having fun on the soccer field, or you see your friends having fun playing basketball, and you're thinking, I got to go run another 10 miles. Don't let it feel like a chore. Just have fun with it. If I could go back and talk to my younger self, and I had a lot of fun, trust me, I didn't train that hard in high school. Most of our runs were to the mall to get C's candy samples. I didn't train that hard. I'm glad I had fun. I wish I could go back and just remind my younger self that most athletes don't peak until their mid to late 20s or even 30s. I was so adamant about being the best runner I could be, as soon as possible. And I wish I had taken a chance to just let my body get a year older. The coolest thing about being in high school, the coolest thing about being, 14 or 15 or 16 is that you get faster every year just by being a year more mature, especially guys. As testosterone starts flowing through your veins, you build muscle and you become a man, and men run faster than boys. So train hard. You do have to train hard, train smart, but don't beat yourself up if the returns aren't coming instantly, because it takes a full year, for you to get between seasons, for you to build a new base, for you to get a year older and a year more mature, a year faster. But I remember back in high school, PRing literally every single week throughout a season. And I missed that because when I got older in my career, a PR once a year was a huge deal. So just try to savor it, enjoy it. The best part about high school track and field is that you get to come out in the beautiful outdoors every afternoon with, a bunch of your friends, male and female. I remember that was awesome. Flirt with the girls, chase the geese, run and jump in the river, savor it, because when you get older and you have to work a 9 to 5, those afternoons are fewer and farther between. So really, really enjoy spending that time with your friends. How many miles did you average a week when you trained in high school, college, and as a professional? That's a great question, and I'm always hesitant to answer this one because it is so specific to a runner. A great example is that as a pro, I ran 70 miles a week. That is insanely high for an 800-meter runner. A lot of my contemporaries, a lot of my colleagues were running 40, maybe 50 miles a week. But I came from a distance background. I ran cross country in high school. I ran cross country in college. And my speed was my strength. So Coach Gaggs, when I first started working with him in 2006, he said, we're going to build speed from strength. And for about 9 months out of the year, I would try to run 70 miles a week, on average 10 miles a day. It was grueling and it broke me down, but it made me so strong. In high school, I probably ran about 30 to 40 miles a week. In college, I probably ran closer to 50 to 60 miles a week. And then, as I mentioned, as a pro, I tried to average 10 a day. And that was structured with a down day. Friday was my off day with only 6 miles. And Sunday was my long run with 14. But it all averaged out to about 10 miles a day. Man, that was a lot of running. And again, I think it's different for everybody. If you're trying to be the best 10K runner, you better be running more than that even. If you're trying to be a 400-meter runner, that's probably way too much mileage for you. So everyone's going to be a little bit different. Consult your coach and listen to your body. It took me literally a decade to work up from the 30 miles that I was running in high school to the 70 miles a week that I was running as a professional. And some weeks I couldn't sustain it and I had to come back down. You got to find what works for you. And I always tell people when they're trying to max out their mileage or find that mileage that's just right, I say, go as high as you can where you can hold it for months at a time. If you find that you're doing 80 or 90 miles a week, but you immediately get little injuries and you have to come back down to 60, I would argue that 80 or 90 miles a week is not sustainable for you and you shouldn't be touching it. I knew that if I ran 75 miles a week, I was likely to get injured. But if I ran 70 miles a week, I could do it for 3 or 4 or 5 months in a row. So that's how specific I got with my mileage. And there's a lot of variables that go into finding that, like travel, sleep, what you're eating, massage. Everything can go into affecting that a little bit. But when I was really focused and really training and had all the resources at my hands, I could train 70 miles a week pretty darn consistently. My next question is, Nick, what kind of tips do you have for developing a lethal kick? Everybody wants that lethal kick, and I had it, but I didn't always have it. I had to learn how to develop that kick. And I would say that the kick in middle distance racing comes down to two things, really. Pacing and what was the other one? Pacing and power. Excuse me, the two P's. I'll start that again, but I'll edit this out for the next video. Developing a lethal kick comes from two things. It's pacing and it's power. And what I mean by that is that the athletes that pace the race most appropriately tend to have the better kick. And it's not necessarily that they have the best kick, it's just that they haven't messed up their race. So case in point, a lot of the races I ran against American sprinters in the 800. In a lot of races, it looks like I'm accelerating over the last 150 meters. I'm going from 8th to 1st sometimes in that last 150. Truth be told, I'm actually decelerating compared to my first lap, but I'm decelerating less than the people who went out really, really fast. I have so many examples of this. Maybe I'll put one up, or I'll do a race recap. I do lots of race recaps. Some of the American sprinters would like to go out and run 50 seconds for their first lap, and they'd come back in 55 seconds. It's a 5-second differential. When I ran the 800, I tried to always run a plus 2-second differential. So in that same race, I would go out in 51 and come back in 53. So even though I'm a full second behind the leaders at the lap, at the bell, I'm decelerating, but I'm not decelerating as fast as they are. 51, 53 looks much more even. And so it looks like I'm coming on and speeding up over the last 150, last 200 meters. I'm not. I'm decelerating still. I'm just decelerating so much less than everybody else. That's pacing. Now let's talk power. When you are exhausted, when you're completely fatigued at the end of an 800 or the end of a 1500 or any race for that matter, you need to draw upon the strength and the endurance that you've built over decades of running or years of running at least. Excuse me. And a lot of that comes from what you do in the gym. So I already talked about speed from strength and building that base through periodization. But also think about what you're doing in the gym. I remember I didn't lift much in college, hardly at all actually. And I didn't lift much my first year as a professional. But my second year as a pro, going into the 2008 Olympic season, I started with a coach named Jimmy Radcliffe. And this guy is amazing. He is the most talented strength and conditioning coach in the world. And he took me under his wing and he taught me functional lifting for runners. He taught me what it meant to have better posture, better running economy. And when I was exhausted, I could still have perfect economy and be explosive off that ground, have fast reaction forces. And so, when people are flailing around and the gorilla jumps on their back, I'm hurting, but I'm still keeping good posture. I'm keeping good mechanics. And again, it looks like I'm just slamming on the accelerator, but it's just that efficiency carrying me through the line while other people are falling apart. So it's hard to develop that system. Again, it takes years and years of building that base, really good periodization, but also you can't underestimate the importance of lifting in the gym. And anyone who tells you that runners don't need to lift is delusional. I'm sure there's a few runners that can get by without it, but I guarantee they're not the best runner that they can be. I just can't believe anyone can ever reach their true potential without having some lifting, some strength work incorporated. So I hope you found that helpful. Last one on this page, Nick, how important is swimming in a training plan? That's a great question. I would say that cross training is essential in any training plan, but it might not necessarily be swimming. That might not be your preferred form of cross training. People who have read my training log, and I'll link that down below. It's actually my 2012 Olympic season training log is for free. It's a downloadable PDF that's available for free at rungum.com. I'll link that in the notes below. For those of you on the webcast, go to rungum.com or just Google Nick Symmonds 2012 training log. You can download it for free. There's a lot of great wealth of wisdom in there. And I think you'll see that I used swimming a lot during that season. And I actually used swimming a lot during my entire pro career. I like to use it to continue to build up my stamina. I mean, swimming is a phenomenal full body workout. And it develops your arms, it develops your core, it develops your legs, it develops your cardiovascular system and your respiratory system. And I liked the muscle confusion. If you're just running all day, your body gets used to that. But when I'd go in the pool, it would be a totally different experience, a totally different workout. And my favorite part about it was that it was a 0G, it was zero gravity workout. So if I did a 10-mile workout in the morning with 5 or 6 miles worth of intervals, when I got to the afternoon, I was dead. I mean, the thought of putting more miles under my belt sounded excruciating. It sounded horrible, and I wasn't going to do it. So rather than just take the afternoon off, I would go in the pool and I would swim a mile. It took me about 25 to 30 minutes, but I'd swim laps, just freestyle. And when I got out of the pool, I felt immediately rejuvenated. Something about moving the blood around, something about being in that 0G environment. It was like it pressed the reset button. I felt like I was ready to go the next day. I could tell very clearly the day after a hard session whether I had swam or not. It would make the world of difference in terms of recovery. And so I'm recovering, I'm feeling better, but I'm continuing to develop my cardiovascular respiratory system in the process. What's not to like? And the added benefit of that was I became a pretty darn good swimmer. And when I got injured, I was able to use swimming to kind of keep myself sane and keep myself fit while I recovered from the injury. And a lot of people have heard me tell this story. In 2009, I got injured in February, and I didn't run a single step in February. I didn't run a single step in March, but I swam every single day. Mid-April, I could finally start training again. 6 weeks later, I won the 2009 Prefontaine Classic, literally off of 2 months of swimming. So don't underestimate swimming as a workout. It is a phenomenal way to keep yourself in shape. Aqua jogging is a total waste of time, in my opinion. I'm sorry, aqua joggers. Okay, it's not a total waste of time. It's better than nothing. But if you think you're getting a great workout when you're aqua jogging, it just, in my opinion, it's not that great of a workout. I think it can be used in conjunction with training. It can be used as recovery. But in terms of keeping your cardiovascular system, your respiratory system stimulated, I think it's just not as good. So I'm talking about swimming here. I'm talking about freestyle, swimming laps, keeping your heart rate up. It's a phenomenal workout. All right, we're halfway through. I hope you guys are finding this helpful. I see we've got 100 people watching, so that's good. Nick, how did you get sponsored? Oh man, what a great question. It is so hard to get sponsored as a professional runner. And I don't mean that to say that in a discouraging way. I just mean to say it in a very real way. But I'm going to tell you the things that you can do that give you the best chance possible. So when companies are looking to sponsor athletes, they're looking to get their brand in front of as many eyeballs as possible. Surprise, surprise, you're a walking billboard. And I've been in on these conversations with Nike. I've been in on these conversations with Brooks. And dozens of other companies that I've worked with. They want to know that you are going to help them sell their products. I would say there's 2 ways to do that. One is running fast. If you're running fast, people are going to pay attention. You're going to be on TV at the bigger meets. You're going to have cameras in your face, and that logo is going to be on you in every one of your interviews and every one of your races. That is a very important part of the process of getting sponsored. But now in today's world of digital advertising and influencer economy, having a social media presence is almost as important as running fast. Some would argue that it's more important because, again, I said earlier, there are some running influencers that make way more than professional runners. But if the goal is to run fast and to build an audience by running fast, you need to be the kind of athlete that wins. Okay, I know that sounds obvious, but think about it for a second. I know a lot of people that were very consistent at getting, All-American status that never got sponsored. And I know some people who you've never heard of that won an NCAA title and they got sponsored. So that's an example of proving that you have what it takes to compete at the highest level of track and field. Companies want to, when a company sponsors an athlete, let me be very clear about this. They're not sponsoring that athlete because they work hard or because they think that they might, have a good showing at USA's. They're sponsoring that athlete as a roll of the dice, hoping that that athlete becomes a world beater. They want the next Mo Farah. They want the next Matt Centrowitz. They want the next Sydney McLaughlin. They don't want the next 6th place finisher at US Indoors. It's nice, but it's not really what they're in the game for. They want their brand on the highest stage, and I'm talking about Olympics here, on the highest stage winning medals, and to a certain extent world championships too. But I remember having conversations with Nike sports marketing team, and they said, we are literally only evaluating people on their potential of winning global medals. That's the game they're playing. So if you want to get sponsored, you need to run fast, you need to win high-level races, and you need to have a very compelling social media brand that's going to continue to help you push the company that's sponsoring you, or companies that are sponsoring you Monday through Sunday, and not just the few times you step on a track. What are things that you can do to help ensure that if you're running fast and winning races and you've got the social media developed, what's going to ensure that you have the best chance of getting a shoe deal and getting a good shoe deal, getting your market value? Well, you're going to need an agent. And you can email Nike, you can email Brooks or Reebok or anyone else until you're blue in the face. But unless they're hearing from an agent, you're probably not going to get a deal. Even the best names, the biggest names in track and field, most of them are using an agent to get their deals done. So I worked with Chris Lane. I think he's the best agent in the game in track and field. Total Sports Management is the company. And I signed my first deal with him in 2006, and I worked with him all the way until my retirement in 2017. There's something to be said for that. He's an honest man. He works his butt off, and he got me great deals. There's a lot of great agents out there. I think Paul Doyle's a great agent. I think Mark Wetmore and Ray Flynn are maybe two good agents. They might be overextended right now. I don't know where they're at in terms of athlete count today, but I think that they run great businesses. There's a lot of agents out there. I know I'm forgetting a couple, but start asking around who people recommend for their agencies. Start emailing these agents. Tell them what you've accomplished. Chances are they are, if you're the kind of athlete that merits a shoe deal, they already know who you are and they've already approached you. But you're probably not going to get your deals done without an agent. That's just the reality. So now let's jump into gear. We didn't get a lot of questions about gear. I think what I'm going to do moving forward is in the show notes, I'm just going to list some of my favorite pieces of gear. Runners, our neophytes, we absolutely love to geek out on gear. We love our watches. We love our hats. We love our shoes. We love our performance-enhancing gum. But the question today is, Nick, what is your favorite shoe of all time? That is a great question, and I've run in everything. I remember when I was in high school, I was a really big Asics guy, and I only would run in Asics. Then in college, I got whatever I could get cheapest. Surprise, surprise. Broke college kid had to buy his own shoes, and I just got whatever I could get my hands on. And then when I turned pro, my first contract was with Nike, and I was contractually obligated to wear their shoes. It wasn't a problem because Nike makes great shoes, and I was getting them for free. So even though they're expensive, I could tear through a pair every month. I liked their shoes, but same problem with most companies is you find a shoe you really love, and then they go and change the model on you. And you're like, well, I can't wear that anymore. I wore Spans. I wore Pegasus. I wore pretty much everything that Nike made over the course of the 8 years that I ran for them. And I liked them all, for various purposes. And then I ran for Brooks Running for 4 years. And they also make great shoes. The difference I noticed between Nike and Brooks was that the Brooks tended to last longer. So with a pair of Nikes, I would maybe cycle them out, every 200 or 300 miles. I would cycle out a pair of Brooks every 400 or 500 miles. So I don't know what that means for you. That's just my personal observation. If I could have a lifetime supply of just one shoe, and obviously I need this shoe to do a lot of things. I need it to be comfortable. I need to be able to walk around in it. I need it to look cool. I need it to perform in long runs. I need it to perform on tempos. One shoe for the rest of my life, hands down, it's the Brooks Launch. I don't know if it's the best shoe out there for everybody, but for me and for everything, the Brooks Launch is my favorite shoe of all time. I'm not getting paid to say that. Brooks, if you're watching this, please send me some more. I'm running low. I love the Brooks Launch so much. All right, more questions. Next question is, Nick, did you take supplements during your career? And which ones do you think improved your performance? That is such a great question. And I studied biochemistry in college, so I was really interested in this world of supplements, specifically in supplements that I thought could boost my, I was really interested in this world of supplements. and specifically in supplements that could boost my performance. I was very adamant that I was only going to use legal supplements. Now, that sounds obvious, but there's a lot of people out there who don't subscribe to that philosophy and use illegal banned substances. But for me, it was about minimizing the detrimental effects that a lot of these drugs and some supplements can have on the body. And I kept it really simple. I took a 1-a-day multivitamin every day just to cover my bases in case my diet was missing in something. I took 2,000 IU of vitamin D because I live in the Pacific Northwest and a lot of people in the Pacific Northwest are vitamin D deficient. I took 2,000 IU vitamin D. I took 500 milligrams of vitamin C, again, for deficiencies. I think that probably was redundant because the multivitamin had a lot and I drink a lot of orange juice. So I don't know if that was necessary, but I did it just to cover my bases. And then occasionally I would take ferrous sulfate elixir. And I would do this when I was going up to altitude for about 4 to 6 weeks before I left for altitude. And when I was at altitude, I would take iron, ferrous sulfate elixir, for those of you who haven't had it before, it's this nasty goop that you mix into orange juice, and it's just rich with iron. And I would do this because it would help me build red blood cells faster. It tasted horrible. It ruined orange juice for me for a while, but it would definitely help me build red blood cells. And so that's what I would do when I was going to altitude. So that was pretty much it. But I was still really fascinated by this world of supplements and performance enhancement. And so I created what I had come to know as a performance enhancing product. And of course, I'm talking about my own company, Run Gum. I was playing around with this for years before I actually brought the product to market. But I knew that caffeine had performance enhancing effects on power and endurance athletics. The studies out there, I mean, they're numerous, how much caffeine can help you. Some would argue as much as 3 to 5% in athletic performance. And this is so obvious that I think a study of 2016 Olympics had 75% of Olympians utilizing caffeine during competition for its performance enhancing effects. I mean, that's astounding. So I was studying that. I also found that taurine had some very, very promising properties for performance enhancement, and just in terms of being a great amino acid for building out skeletal and muscular tissue. I wanted to have taurine in my product. And of course, B12 is notorious for giving that kind of energetic euphoria that you get when you take it sublingually in tinctures. And so I kind of played around with these three things: caffeine, taurine, B vitamins. If that sounds familiar, it's because it's found in a lot of energy drinks. I mean, we weren't reinventing the wheel here. We were just playing around with stuff that other companies were using because we knew that these had performance enhancing effects. I had been getting a lot of energy drinks sent my way, and I'm drinking the energy drink, and I feel the euphoria, I feel the energy, I feel the focus, and I go for a run, or I go to lift, or I go to bike or swim, and my stomach was just destroyed by these energy drinks. They're harsh, they're acidic, they're carbonated, they're chock full of sugar, calories. I wanted none of that. I literally just wanted the caffeine, the taurine, and B vitamins. But every product on the market, from goos to energy drinks to energy shots, they wanted me to drink something. And I'm like, I'm not thirsty. I just want the darn supplements. So I dehydrated the energy drink. I took all the sugar, took all the calories out, all the liquid, and I took those stimulants that I wanted, and I played around with sublingual tinctures. I played around with strips. I played around with all kinds of things that could deliver those stimulants to the lining of my mouth so that through sublingual and buccal absorption, I could absorb those stimulants much faster without having anything in my stomach. I saw a commercial for Nicorette, actually. You know, it's a functional chewing gum that delivers nicotine to the system using chewing gum. And I thought, that is so brilliant. And I infused a piece of chewing gum with the stimulants that I wanted. So this is Run Gum. It comes in 5 flavors. You can find it nationwide at Target. And we're rolling out in some other major retailers. You can find it on Amazon. You can get it at rungum.com. But it is everything you love about your energy drink without all the crap. Caffeine, taurine, B vitamins. This has as much caffeine as your leading energy drinks, but you don't have to refrigerate it. TSA won't confiscate it when you go through TSA checkpoints. You're not going to run a marathon or any race for that matter with a 16-ounce energy drink in your hand, but you can fold this up, put it in your pocket, and you can have this at mile 20 in a marathon. You can carry it up Mount Everest with you. You can carry it when you're on a long-distance bike ride. Or what we use it for a lot here in the office, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you've just had a big lunch. All you want is a nap. Well, we don't have the luxury of that. So a packet of Run Gum about 1 in the afternoon, your productivity will be much, much more improved. So those are the supplements that I used. Again, I think at this point in my life, while I'm not training at the same level that I was before, I take a multivitamin and I use a lot of Run Gum to get me through the days. But I don't really think you need to be taking dozens of supplements. The companies that suggest that you do, maybe they have some science behind it that backs it up, but most studies I've seen show that you just pee that out. So you're spending a lot of money for stuff that's not really helping you. One of the coolest things about Run Gum is you feel it instantly because of the sublingual absorption, because it's so much faster than gastrointestinal absorption. You notice Run Gum. I mean, we've sold millions of pieces of this, and I've yet to have one person say I didn't feel it. So give it a try. Start with just 1 piece. If you don't feel it, try 2. If you don't feel that, go to our extra strength formula that has twice the caffeine. I think everybody can find a flavor that they like and a dosage that works best for them. What else we got? What are your incomes besides Run Gum? Well, I just got done talking about Run Gum and how great a product I think it is, but it's not my only source of income. Let me talk a little bit about how I make my money as a pro athlete, and then kind of why I created Run Gum and how it allows me to pay my bills today. A lot of athletes, when they turn pro, they think they're going to run pro forever. They think they're going to play football forever, play basketball forever. And I had this great mentor, Sam LaPre, and the day I signed my first pro contract, and it was not for much, it was barely enough to live off of, he said, Nick, I want you, every time you get paid running, I want you to think this will be my last paycheck I ever get running. And it created this concept or this mentality that I had a lotto ticket. I acknowledge I won the genetic lottery, and I worked my butt off to cash that lotto ticket every week or every month or when the checks came. But it was a lottery ticket, and it was going to expire at some point. And so my mentality every time I got paid was save as much of this as possible and start planning your exit, because this is going to end. And it was really a great mentality because I did save a lot of that money, but I was constantly always so worried that I'd get injured or that the money would dry up that I pursued a lot of other things. You know, in 2009, I went to Coach Sam and I said, Sam, you know, I know that I'm going to have to retire one of these days, and the running money is going to end, and I want to learn another skill. And so we actually started a business. We started a business in 2009. We didn't know what to call it, but we called it Gold Medal LLC, Limited Liability Corporation. And I said, you know, Sam, why are we calling it this? It was his idea. And he said, Nick, we're going to call it Gold Medal LLC because you're going to try to win a gold medal at the Olympic Games. And if you do, you'll never need money. You'll have so much money, you'll never need to worry about anything else. But he said, if you don't win that gold medal LLC will help you pay the bills. And I love that. And I'm so proud that we still have Gold Medal Inc. today. We have it as incorporated as a C Corp. But what happened is we had this business. We had Gold Medal LLC in name, but not in practice. We decided what we wanted to do was franchise businesses. And we actually created some tanning salons. We franchised tanning salons here in the Eugene, Springfield area. Why tanning salons? It's not that I like tanning. I had actually never been tanning. Maybe I've been tanning one time before we started the salons, but it's really big business in Eugene and Springfield area. And so we created tanning salons, and I got to learn about business, not in a classroom, but by actually building out businesses. We weren't super passionate about that industry. And when we came up with the idea for Run Gum, we sold the tanning salons and rolled the profits into creating what is now Gold Medal Inc., doing business as Run Gum. And I'm so glad we did that because I absolutely love the Run Gum business. I feel we are really helping people. We say at Run Gum, our mission is twofold. It's to fuel and inspire people to make the most of their busy days. We fuel them with our revolutionary energy product, and we try to inspire people with the content that we're putting out at Run Gum across all social platforms. And if you go to rungum.com and sign up for our emails, we really try to put great content out that inspires people to be active, be busy, and be the best versions of themselves that they can be. So I love this business. I'm so honored to be the CEO of this company. I love our team. I love our products. And I just couldn't be happier that we created that business Gold Medal way back when. And actually, if you have to go and get a packet of Run Gum, on the back you'll see distributed by Gold Medal Inc. So pretty cool that business has been around for 10 years now. But back to the original question, how do I make money? well, there was the tanning salon. Now there's Run Gum that pays my salary. But, you know, I like to hustle. I love having multiple businesses. I'm also the founder and CEO of Nick Symmonds, LLC, which managed all of my running income while I was running. And I'm going to make a video about how runners make money. I think I need to go into more depth about all the various streams of income that a pro runner can have. And I'll make that for my YouTube channel here pretty soon. But when Nick Symmonds, LLC, when the running money dried up, so I wasn't running professionally anymore, the shoe contracts were gone, I said, wow, that's so sad that this business, Nick Symmonds, LLC, which, you know, has been around for nearly a decade, is about to die. And I said, no, maybe it doesn't have to. Maybe there's ways to still make money being an influencer. And so you guys will see me occasionally championing brands and representing brands that I believe in with products that I believe in, specifically on Instagram, occasionally on YouTube. But these are brands that have approached me or that I've approached, and I work with them and I push their products. I'm not making thousands of dollars on these deals, but I'm making a few $100s here or there. And it allows me to take my girlfriend out to dinner or fuel up my truck or pay for a new pair of running shoes. And I have fun with it. I really like working with other brands. If you work with a brand that wants to work with Nick Symmonds LLC or Run Gum, shoot me an email, press@rungum.com. We love collaborating with other brands. And obviously, I personally love collaborating with them as well. And recently, I started something called Letter Club. If you subscribe to my monthly newsletter, these are personal letters that I write to my subscribers. They are mainly intent to motivate and inspire. And I tell anecdotal stories like the time I moved to Mexico. That's actually tomorrow's letter. If you're watching this and you want to learn about the time I moved to Mexico to become a professional runner, then you better go to letterclub.com, letterclub.com, and sign up, because you have to sign up by midnight in order to get that story. But letterclub.com is a newsletter I launched back in December, and literally hundreds of people have come and signed up for this letter club, and they seem to be liking it. I've had very few people cancel. I think that these letters are powerful and they inspire people to be the best versions of themselves, to pursue their big, audacious goals. I think so many people have these big goals and they're so intimidated by them that they don't even know where to start. As a guy who's set some pretty big, audacious goals, like you know, becoming an Olympian or building a multi-million-dollar company, these are big goals. And I remember when I was scared to attempt them, or even think about them, or even tell people about them, I relied on some of my mentors that would tell me, Nick, this is how you approach those big, audacious goals. And that's what I try to do. I try to pass that knowledge on to the Letter Club subscribers. So I ship a new letter on the first of every month. It has an anecdotal story. It has lessons. It has a hand autograph. And if you sign up at Letter Club, use the code FREE99, you will get your first letter absolutely free, and it'll have a hand autograph picture. So you can cancel anytime. Like literally, it costs you $0 to sign up. You're gonna get the free picture no matter what, and you can cancel the next day if you want. Like I hope you don't. I think you're really gonna love these letters. But that's another form of income for me. So other sources of income. I think that covers it. But you know, I'm a hustler and a serial entrepreneur, and I always have new ideas for businesses. But you know, one of the things that makes a great entrepreneur is saying no. And sometimes that means saying no to myself. So occasionally I'll have an idea. And I'm like, oh, you know what would be great? And I say, no, Nick, you've got enough irons in the fire. You need to focus on Run Gum. You need to focus on building out your YouTube channel. That's another thing. I do make a little bit of money on Google AdSense for my YouTube channel. So thank you guys on YouTube. I appreciate you. What else? Here's one. Nick, how do I get Run Gum internationally? Great question. If you go to rungum.com and you try to buy Run Gum and you live outside of the United States, we can't ship internationally yet. If you live in the United States, I strongly encourage you to subscribe at rungum.com. Our subscription service is fantastic. You get Run Gum shipped to your door every month, along with a note from me, a free gift, and it's also the most affordable way to get Run Gum. But if you live outside the US, that's not an option. But you can still get your hands on Run Gum. You need to go to vitacost.com. I'll link that below. Vitacost.com ships to 192 countries, I believe. If you don't go to Vitacost, you can go to iHerb, IHERB.com. They ship to quite a few countries, and I'm sure there's one I'm forgetting. But there are definitely e-tailers that are partners of ours that do ship internationally. So make sure you shop it around, find the one that ships to your country cheapest. But I know I have a lot of fans, a lot of followers that live internationally. A lot of people asking for Run Gum in countries like Canada, Australia, the UK. So check out those e-tailers and have it shipped to you. In the United States, I think rungum.com is the best way to get it at the most affordable rate and most consistently. Plus, you're getting free gifts, when you subscribe and save. Why wouldn't you want that? But if you prefer to buy brick and mortar in an actual store, go to Target. We're nationwide at Target. You can go to Amazon.com. We have it on Amazon, and we're in almost every single run specialty store. So it's not hard to get your hands on Run Gum. Give it a try, and once you do, please let me know on your favorite social media platform what your favorite flavor is and how you like to use it. I love hearing people and their stories about how they found that Run Gum can help them. One of my favorite stories of all, there's a couple sled dog racers that live up in Wasilla, Alaska, and they race 24, 48 hours at a time, and they said we needed a product that would allow us to feel energized and focused through these grueling races. And they tried energy drinks, but it's Alaska, and guess what happened to those energy drinks? They froze solid. Well, Run Gum doesn't have any liquid in it. It doesn't freeze, and they found Run Gum, and it is the perfect use for them when they're racing sled dogs. Caffeine, taurine, B vitamins, it makes them feel alert, and it can't freeze on them. And without that liquid, it's a lot of reasons that people love it. Frequent flyers love it because TSA doesn't confiscate it. And climbers and cyclists love it because it weighs next to nothing. So give it a try. Let me know how you use it. These days, I'm pretty much using it just not to fall asleep after lunch. I have to work, 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 or even 9 to 7 some days on Run Gum, and it helps power me through my workday. And a lot of workers are finding that it helps them do that. So that's most of the questions I had. How long did that take? That was almost an hour. I'm going to actually change this up because I see we have over 100 people that have tuned in to watch this, and I want to get to your questions. So let me shut this one off. Okay. And that's better. Let me answer some of your questions. So, oh wow, we got lots to go through here. You would be able to tell if it were a pyramid scheme if Nick was recruiting salesmen to sell it. This isn't a pyramid scheme. I don't have a bunch of henchmen out there making money selling. I've got a director of sales and I've got a sales account manager. So 2 people out there hustling Run Gum. I do own a good chunk of the company. I'm a founder and the CEO of the company, but I'm also the creator of it. I literally created this product because that's what I needed when I was training and racing around the world. All right. My goal is to be able to juggle with no hands. Good luck with that one, bud. Nick, I will pay you $300 right now if you say Nick Symmonds Pregnancy Pact 2020. Well, I just said it, so I want my $300, and I have no idea what a Pregnancy Pact 2020 is. I'm sure I'm missing something here. I'm going to go to the top and see if you guys have some questions here. AJ LeBray says, I double heart Run Gum. Well, I bet you do, seeing as your dad's my co-founder. But if you guys like YouTube videos, go follow AJ LeBray on YouTube. He has some really, really great videos, and he's blowing up. He has one video that got 9 million views. Go check it out. Hello, good to see you online. Good to see you guys. How did you get through being out-leaned? Yeah, it sucks. You guys can go to my YouTube channel, and I made a video about getting my butt kicked by my old rival, Kadivas Robinson. He out-leaned me at the line, and you know how I got over it? I said I can get pissed off and worry about this, or I can learn from this experience, and I chose to learn from it. And I went to my coach, and I said, teach me how to be the best leaner at the line, so I never get out-leaned again. And I used it as a learning experience, and I never, ever got out-leaned again. So that's how I got past it. What's the best way to break 2 minutes? I'm assuming you're asking 2 minutes in 800. The best physiologically easiest way to break 2 minutes in the 800 is to go out in 57 seconds and to come back in 59 seconds, or 58 and 59. So what I'm trying to say here is run a plus 2 second differential. If you go out in 60 seconds flat and you expect to come back in 59, that's not going to happen. I mean, unless you're really, really talented, you should probably be thinking about trying to break 155 at that point. Try to run 57 seconds and come back in 59 seconds, and you'll be really happy with your time. But one thing I should say is stop focusing on time. Everybody's so worried about time. Just race the damn race. I'm going to make a YouTube video specifically about that. I'm so tired of people talking about time barriers. Worry about winning. Win the race. How do I bounce back from a burnout early or in track season or overworked legs? You know, burnouts are tough, and when you feel it coming on, you need to just stop. And I mean stop. Don't like, if you're actually burnt out, don't just kind of back your miles off. I mean, take a 2-week break. Burnout is very real. It can develop into some really bad situations like chronic fatigue syndrome. If you're really properly burnt out, not mentally, but like physically, you are burnt out, you need to take a break. And it is okay to rest the legs occasionally. You know, I remember a few times when I got really, really burnt out, and I would literally pack my bags and I'd go down to Mexico or I'd go to LA and I'd sit on the beach for 2 weeks. And I felt so much better after it. You really aren't going to lose that much fitness in 2 weeks, but you can really, really hurt yourself if you grind yourself down into that trough. Let's see, a couple more. It is 5 o'clock. I should probably get home here pretty soon. How often were you a rabbit for races? Did you enjoy it? That's a good question. You know, I didn't rabbit a lot. I probably should have rabbited more because you make really good money as a rabbit. But I only rabbited maybe 2-3 times in my entire career. I enjoyed it. I really liked it. There is something to be said that the mentality of stepping off the track early in a race is something you don't really want to develop. In 20 years, literally 20 years of competitive running, I only didn't finish a race 1 time. No matter how bad I was hurting, no matter how bad the race was going, I always finished. And I really believe that unless you're injured, you need to finish that damn race. But when you rabbit, you know you're not supposed to finish. And so I guess 3 times I didn't finish, but I was a rabbit. And I didn't like that feeling of stepping off the track before I crossed the finish line. And so I didn't do it very often, unless I was getting paid well to do it. Sam Quigley, how old are you? I'm 35 years old. I like to think that I'm holding up pretty well, but I was born in 1983. I feel younger than 35, but 35 is a great age. And I will say this, I am happier today than I have ever been in my entire life. My 20s were wild. They were a real roller coaster of emotions. I wouldn't change it for the world, but they were hard. And my 30s have been so much easier, and I've been a much happier person in my 30s. Hey, Nick, how can I improve my 800 time? I'm a sophomore in college and in NAIA trying to be an Olympian like you. You know, I think you're so young, you've just got to keep building up that base. And I can't emphasize periodization enough. If you properly periodize, you're going to have this huge swing across a season. Let me talk about periodizing for a college kid. This is how I did it when I was in college. I would take 2 or 3 weeks off at the end of every track season. So basically the entire month of June, I wouldn't run a step. July and August, I would start building my base for cross country. And cross country is when I really put the miles in. And I trained hard all cross country season. I would take maybe 10 days off after cross, not a full reset, but enough to just get excited for track. And then I would continue building that base all winter. And then I would start tapering down in April and May into the championship season. So you think about that time period, right? Basically, July through April, I'm just building this huge base, like I'm talking 50, 60 miles a week every single week for 10 months. And then I'd back it off and I'd crush races. So if you want to improve in any event, you really need to start understanding periodization. And that means you're going to miss races. It means you're going to run some races really tired. And that's okay, because you need to care about literally only about 2 months out of the year. Unless you're trying to run at the D1 level where you have to peak multiple times for cross country, indoor and outdoor, which I think is almost impossible for most people. One of the reasons I ran D3 is that we didn't run indoors. One of the reasons I ran for Willamette University is that they didn't run indoors. So I ran cross country and I ran track, and I really didn't give that many craps about cross country. It was just a way to get faster for track. So that was my recommendation is focus on periodization, focus on really hitting those times. You know, you can only be on for 4 to 6 weeks out of the year, be on for the right 4 to 6. I'm gonna take one more question, then I gotta get some dinner. Let's see here. Jared Bloom asks, I'm going to be graduating this May, and to continue my distance running, I'm going to be running my first marathon at the Detroit Free Press Marathon. Any tips to break 3 and make Boston? Wow. Gosh, the marathon's such a special distance. You know, you can be a runner. I mean, I ran for nearly 20 years before I attempted my first marathon. And I mean, I was a good runner, right? But I mean, the marathon is a totally different beast. The longest run I had ever done before I stepped foot on a marathon course was 15 miles. And 26.2 is a lot longer than that. So, you know, the best thing you can do, I think, is do a proper buildup. Even though I didn't, I'm going to tell you what you probably should have done that I didn't do, which is a proper buildup, which is about 3 to 6 months. Make sure you have like a couple 18-mile long runs, a 20-mile long run. But one thing I'll say is that the long run is typically harder than the race itself. That 15-mile long run I did was way harder than the 26.2 because once you're in that race, you have the adrenaline. You have all of those people carrying you along. And I actually found the race to be really enjoyable. I was pretty sore the next day, but I really loved every minute that I was out there. And I was out there for 3 hours and 35 seconds. I hope you beat my time. I hope you break 3 hours. That's 1 hour on YouTube Live. I freaking love YouTube. I love watching videos. I love making videos. I love answering all your comments. And I even like going live because I thought this was really fun. I hope you guys found it helpful. You saw me filming it. I'm going to chop those questions up. And every Monday, I'll put one out. But I only got to about 12 questions there. So let's do this again in 3 months. And you guys can ask me more questions. I know I didn't get to all of them. A lot of you shot me some questions on Instagram. I appreciate that. And I will try to answer those on Instagram over the next week. If you want, head over to Instagram, follow me, and shoot me a DM with your questions if you have follow-up questions to this webinar. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you have an awesome weekend.